Welcome students. In this topic, we will learn about fillet lap joints on a 10 mm thick MS plate in the overhead position 4G using the shielded metal arc welding process.
Place the welding positioner table in a secure location with ample space for the welder to move. Familiarize yourself with the controls of the welding positioner, including the speed of rotation and direction to facilitate easy and precise positioning during welding. Use appropriate clamping devices such as C-clamps or magnetic clamps to securely hold the 10 mm MS plate in position on the table. Ensure the clamps provide sufficient pressure to prevent movement during welding. Adjust the positioner's stable angle to the overhead welding position. This angle should be set to match the desired welding position. Fix the tack welded lap joint in the overhead welding positioner with a provided clamp. Center the tack welded lap joint along the axis of the positioner to maintain balance and stability during rotation. Position the plates so that the welding area is easily accessible, allowing the welder to maintain good visibility and control over the welding process. Ensure that all safety precautions are in place, such as guarding to protect against sparks and proper grounding of the positioner to prevent electrical hazards. Wear appropriate personal protective equipment (PPE) such as welding gloves, a welding helmet with proper shade of the lens, and flame-resistant clothing. Inspect welding cables for any damage or exposed wires. Ensure the welding machine is properly grounded. Check the welding torch for any defects. Ensure that the electrode is correctly positioned in the torch. Select a 3.15 mm dia MS electrode for welding the root run. Set the current to 110 amps for the root run. Hold the electrode so that it bisects the angle between the edge of the top plate and the surface of the bottom plate. Lay the first bead at the root of the joint with a short arc without electrode weaving. Remove the slag from the bead using a chipping hammer. Clean the weld bead with a steel wire brush. Use a 3.15 mm dia MS electrode for the second run. Set the current to 110 amps for the second run. The electrode angle is the same as the one mentioned for the root run. Deposit the second run with a stringer bead technique. Deslag the weld bead with a chipping hammer. Clean the weld bead with a steel wire brush. For the third run, use a 3.15 mm dia MS electrode. Set the current to 110 amps for the third run. Deposit the third bead in between the first bead and the bottom edge of the top plate. With a short arc and with an electrode angle of 45 degrees to the surface of the plate to avoid the edge melting off the top plate. Deslag the weld bead with a chipping hammer. Clean the weld bead with a steel wire brush. Inspect the weld for any surface defects. Here are the guidelines to follow for a fillet lap joint on an MS plate with a 10 mm thickness in an overhead position using the shielded metal arc welding process. Always wear protective clothing. Wear a proper helmet. Ensure proper electrical safety. Prepare the joint properly. Use the correct welding parameters. Maintain a proper arc length. Use a weaving motion. Travel at a steady pace. Clean the slag after each pass. Make sure that the weld bead is properly sized. Use tongs to hold the hot job. Let's now examine the defects that can be identified during the inspection process. Undercut. Porosity. Uneven ripples. Edge of the plate melting off. Cracks.
Recap. At the end of this topic, you will be able to prepare plates as per size 150 mm length, 50 mm width and 10 mm thickness. Set the plates in the form of a lap joint and tack weld at each end of the joint at an equal distance. Deposit the root, second and third runs using the weaving technique in an overhead position. Clean the weld bead with a steel wire brush. Inspect the weld bead for any surface defects.